Now. Good morning, this is Charles Amirkhanian, and welcome to our broadcast of Astor Piazzolla at the Speaking of Music event held by the Exploratorium at the Cowell Bayfront Theater last May 11th. It was an extraordinary day with an extraordinary gentleman. There is an aura of nostalgia and machismo surrounding the Argentinian tango that defines both its glory and its limits. The music of Astor Piazzolla partakes of that exotic old-fashioned aura, yet transcends it. Those are the words of Eric Salzman in the None Such Recordings release of the Concerto for Bandoneon. And he goes on to say, an original and distinctive artist, Piazzolla continues the grand line of one of our century's most enduring musical genres. Inspired by American jazz and modern concert music, he shook up tango, broke down its Byzantine formulas to create it for our time. He was born in Mar del Plata, not far from Buenos Aires, in 1921, taken as a child to the United States and brought up in New York. And on our program, we'll hear Piazzolla demonstrate his use of the fascinating instrument, the bandoneon, which he learned in New York. And you'll hear how he acquired his instrument and how he got to be the most active younger generation member of a group of performers who fashioned a kind of music which really took not only Argentina but also the United States by storm as late as up till 1940. You'll hear a little bit about the decline of the tango and its revitalization with Piazzolla. And also, I did want to add a personal note, which was that yesterday when I telephoned Piazzolla in Buenos Aires to let him know we were doing this broadcast, he gave us permission to give copies of the recording of this program to you as a premium when you subscribe to KPFA at the $60 rate. But the other thing I wanted to tell you was that before he left to come on his American tour in April and May, he announced publicly in Argentina that if Menem won the election, that he would not stay there because he feared the institution of a military dictatorship to shore up the sagging economy and to create a kind of order in the country. Ironically, last week he played two concerts, a first scheduled concert and a second concert in the Opera House in Buenos Aires because the first concert was sold out. And backstage was the president-elect who came to console Piazzolla and to talk to him about staying in the country. And in fact, he told him that he was not intending to do all of those things which Piazzolla feared, and instead he asked Piazzolla to play at his inauguration next fall, and assured him that there would be no untoward acts under his presidency. Well, this was a big shock to Piazzolla, who had been ranting about this possibility for some time. And what has happened is that although Piazzolla will be in Berlin during the inauguration and can't play the inauguration, he has announced that he will stay in the country, and he is in fact being consulted on cultural matters and so forth. So that is a very interesting turnaround in opinions from when Piazzolla visited here just a month ago. The next tour of Astor Piazzolla to the United States will occur in the month of September 1990, and he will be leaving on Saturday from Buenos Aires for another European tour. He is projecting a new recording or two, although nothing is firm, but he thinks that his newest recording will be available on a label from Germany, and we'll certainly have word about it as we follow his career and find out. As some of you may or may not know, last year Piazzolla underwent a very serious quadruple bypass operation which stopped him from playing for a little while, and then when he picked up activity again and came through this operation, he has had much more energy and has literally worn out his band by playing very long sets, as he did on May 10th at Zellebach Auditorium. And for those of you who are curious to know what is happening to the KPFA recording of that event, it will be distributed on the radio later in the year as part of a series of live concerts which will be running in the fall. So we don't have that for you this morning. However, we do have a recording of a very fascinating up-close visit with Astor Piazzolla, who talked with an audience of about 400 people at the Cowell Bayfront Theater on May 10th in San Francisco. Let's go to that recording now. It's a great pleasure to have Astor Piazzolla here with us today. We've been waiting a good long while for a chance to get to talk to you up close because you're always so far in the distance playing that beautiful music. But I wonder if we could start by talking about the tango itself and what it is sociologically in Argentina and what it has become since you've changed it in the mid-50s, and then also get a little introduction to the bandoneon.
Okay.
Tell us a little bit about the tango and how you got involved in it.
Well, it's I think it's this year or next year that tango will be 100 years old. More or less in 1890, it started in the bordellos of Buenos Aires, and that's how it started. And they used to play the tango, instead of being a tango, it was a milonga. It was more of a picaresque rhythm. It wasn't a tango at the beginning. Tango came after the milonga. And then the tango was very smooth. It was started being picaresque, and then all of a sudden it came into sad music, dramatic, very passionate music.
Mostly songs, weren't they, with lyrics?
But it wasn't sung yet. At the
Not
beginning, yet. in the bordellos, in the brothels of Buenos Aires, it was only dancing music. So it was all instrumental music. They played tangos to dance to. And maybe 10 years after, it started with lyrics. They started singing tangos. But it wasn't very much singing music because it was very quick. It was played very quickly, and they couldn't put words to that. But the bandoneon didn't start yet. The tango music started with a violin, with a flute, and with a guitar. And then, all of a sudden, they put a piano. It was a quartet. And some Italian immigrants who were in Argentina used to play the accordion. And all of a sudden, I'll make it a little quick in order to not lose any time today. And all of a sudden, they discover the bandoneon. But the bandoneon comes more or less in the 1891, 1892, and it's played by the Italian accordion players. And they discover that the bandoneon has a different sound than the accordion. It has more of a velvet sound. And in the left hand, it has a very sad sound when you sing a melody. And the beginning of all this tango music was very lyric music, like a mixture of opera and Italian canzonetta, Mediterranean music. I say Italian because 99% of the people who play and compose tangos in Argentina are of Italian descent. I don't want to exaggerate more than 99% because the Spaniards will get mad with me. But that's the real truth.
But it was also associated with the low life of the country, you could say, the criminal element.
It was.
That was very important, huh?
A brothel is in church. But even if the bandoneon was born in a church, it was born in 1854. It was invented to play religious music in a church in Karlsfeld, Germany. And the inventor was Heinrich Band. And Band, he put an onion at the end, a bandoneon. That's how it started, playing religious music. And that was 1854. Let's say my arithmetic is okay. From 1854 till 1890, that's 36 years. That's when the bandoneon gets into the brothels, from the church to the brothels, and from the brothels I'm here in San Francisco.
What you said the left hand has a mellow sound. You mean it's different from the right hand? Show us a little bit about that.
It's very easy. I mean, you can hear it's like a cello.
Yeah, but why don't you play it when you go in? Huh?
I mean,
Why are you only playing going exhaling this way?
When you close it, you use the closing to breathe. So we close it very seldom, and we try to play opening always because it sounds better. You can't just sing a melody. If you do it closing, it loses all the strength. And after I could tell you a little more about the technique of this diabolic instrument. It's very, very, really very complicated.
How are those keys arranged? Are they in order? Or?
No, nothing is in order here. I think this is the vengeance of some German paranoid that I had nothing to do. My father brought it once to me and said, play that. Here I am today playing it.
Can you explain what order the keys are in and what
the keys are, it's, I don't know if you do a scale, here's the C, the D is over here, the E over here, the F over here. Now when you close it, it changes. It changes completely. That's low C. And in the right hand, it's exactly the same. This is different than that. It's another way. You close it. It's completely different.
Why is it different? Because it's activating different reeds, or?
And I don't know. Don't ask me those questions. No. But you could do what you can't do on the piano. We have 76 notes on the bandoneon, and the piano has 88. So you have to play with 4 fingers. The thumb is to hold it. And then, if you could get a chord that you can play on the piano, if you do this chord.
With 4 fingers?
With 4 fingers, but you press the low. Piano only if you put the pedal and then you play the chords. But on the bandoneon with 4 fingers you could do that, and 4 fingers you get 8 notes, different notes.
Wait a minute, what about this? Can you play some church music on that?
Sure. Why they used to play religious music? Because it could be the grandson of the organ or the son of the harmonium. So you could play, let's say, a series of chords. Can't get that sound out of an accordion. I mean, that's why it's sad. I don't know why.
Now, in the early tangos, they harmonized in a much more conventional manner. Could you give us a comparison of an early?
Yes, it was more simple. I mean, let's say at the beginning of tango, they used to play the tango. That was the milonga. The tango was in 4, and the milonga was. Something that was the rhythm at the beginning. Mm-hmm. Then it went down. It started. I'm playing nice chords now. They didn't play these chords. If I have to play the chords they played at the beginning of the century, I mean it was very poor as music. And that's why I came into this new world.
Any questions for Mr. Piazzolla about while he's got the instrument up?
I'm playing Sunday Blue.
Just play what you want to play.
Where are you, from the FBI? That's more important than St. Louis Blue.
We promised him he wouldn't have to play a concert. We're demonstrating and so forth, but we get a little bit this way, huh? Any other questions? Yes? Did somebody have a question? I heard a lot of talking. Yes?
How did you come to the instrument? Did you play a different instrument first?
How did you come to the instrument?
I was living in New York. I was 9 years old, and my father appeared with this in his hand. It was my birthday. I was 9 years old, and I had to learn it by myself because I couldn't find a teacher of this instrument in New York. I mean, the one who helped me out was an Argentine pianist who played this instrument.
Who is that?
And that was in New York.
What was his name?
D'Aquila, Andy D'Aquila. He had an orchestra in New York, a Latin orchestra. And then he taught me all the notes on the bandoneon, and then I started by myself. I heard a pianist next door to my house in New York City. I was 9 years old. He was playing Bach every morning, 6 hours of Bach. I listened to that, and the music got into me, and I went to see him. I knocked at his door, and I told him, I want to play that music, but he didn't see this instrument yet. So when he came out, he said, "Yeah, are you a pianist?" "No, I play this instrument. I would like to play it." But I'm not a bandoneon teacher. I told him what was the name of the instrument. He says, "That's okay. Don't worry. We'll try to get the piano music into the bandoneon." And I studied with him for at least 4 or 5 years. I played all Bach, invention 2 parts and 3 parts, and I fell in love with Bach. And then I started playing Schumann and Mozart.
Really?
And I never played a tango until I was 14 years old. When I was 14 years old, I played my first tango when this great Argentine singer, Carlos Gardel, arrived to New York. He made 3 films, and I recorded the music.
How did he find you?
Well, he didn't find me. I found him. My father sent me to take. My father used to do sculptures on wood, and when he made a guitarist, a gaucho, and he made it in wood, and he dedicated it to Gardel, and that was in 1934. I went to his house.
And he sent you to deliver it? Huh?
Yes, I went to the hotel where we was staying at the departments of Beaux-Arts on the 48th Street, New York, and I took this gaucho, and he was really very impressed, very happy to receive that. And it says to Carlos Gardel, Vincent Piazzolla. It was 1934, and it has a very tragic ending. This was 1934, and he went to Colombia, to Medellin, Colombia, and his plane crashed. He died, of course. And he went with this gaucho. I know he went with it because when 1959, I came back to New York City. I was supposed to come back and record here. And I found this music teacher who taught me to play the bandoneon, D'Aquila. And he used to collect ancient furniture. And he used to go around Greenwich Village where we lived. We used to live in Greenwich Village in New York City and in St. Mark's Place. And 50 yards from my house, this man, D'Aquila, he saw in a very old antique house, he saw a small gaucho all burnt up. And it was next to my house. It's like the objects going back to where they were born. Okay. And he wanted to buy it, and it cost $20. He only had $10. He says, well, I'll come in the afternoon. When he came back, they sold it.
Jeez.
I mean, they stole it. They stole it when the plane crashed. They stole this gaucho. Somebody stole it, and they went back to where my father made it.
An incredible story. You told me that when you were studying composition with Nadia Boulanger, you finally admitted that your instrument was the bandoneon, and she said she knew about it. How was that?
Well, I felt much ashamed. I felt ashamed to tell her that I made a living playing tangos in a cabaret in Buenos Aires. And I felt ashamed, more ashamed, to say that my instrument was a bandoneon. I used to say I was a very bad pianist. But I wouldn't dare tell her that I played the bandoneon. And she said, oh, the bandoneon, that's the only instrument that Paul Hindemith couldn't play. And you said, do you like it? I love it. And I started laughing. I had a grin on my face and my eyes went out. I can't believe it. And I hated this instrument because, I mean, I was in another world. I was in the classical music. I was writing symphonies and all that, and I didn't want to do nothing with tango. I just wanted to get out of that world. And she, in 1954, she made me go back to my music. She made me believe in tango, because when I wrote a classical symphony or a concerto for piano and orchestra or chamber music, she didn't find Astor Piazzolla in none of that music. And all of a sudden she said, look, this is very good music, but it's very well written, but I can't find you. And then she started investigating my private life to see what I did. And she found out that I was a bandoneon player, that I played tango, and she loved tango, and she made me play a tango on the piano, and she took my two hands and she says, this is Astor Piazzolla. Throw the rest away, that's no good. I got 10 years of my life, I threw it away, and I started with my tango. I started believing in my instrument. I recorded, I wrote, I composed nearly 30 compositions in 1 month in Paris. I arranged them, I recorded them, then I went back to Argentina as if I was a gladiator. I went back to fight. I wanted to fight with music, and I was really, not out of my mind, but it's a very beautiful way of feeling crazy.
We have a recording that you made in 1954.
Yes.
Can we play that now?
That could show you how crazy I was. The recording is also very crazy.
Lo que vendrá is the name of the album, and I'd like to thank
Things
Marta
to come.
LaRue.
I stole that from Dizzie Gillespie.
This one?
Yes, the
Things to
idea,
come.
Things to Come. He had a music called Things to Come, and I made a tango.
Is
with
Marta
that.
LaRue here? Raise your hand. Where are you? Here. She's the lady from Uruguay who bought this in 1956. And thank you for loaning this to us. Okay, let's see.
3 minutes, I think it's the last
Yeah,
one.
3 minutos con la realidad. Huh? With reality there. Beautiful.
Well, this was how we started, how I started in 1954. Nearly all my compositions were wrote in the same style, and I was like a newborn. I was born when Nadia Boulanger said to me that I was really Astor Piazzolla when I played tango. when I wrote tango.
What about this recording session? Where was it made?
This was made in Montevideo in Uruguay.
Did you conduct?
No, I was
yourself?
playing.
And who's leading the string orchestra, for
It's,
example?
no, we had to spend more money. With a conductor, no conductor. There was a very good pianist, and we used to record until 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning every day.
So you did many takes of each piece?
Well, no, not so many. Not so many. This was a new company, and I had a friend of mine who was the director of this company, and he called me. We went to Uruguay. It's just across the street from Buenos Aires, and we went there and we made this record in less than 1 week.
Fantastic. Any questions at this point? Yes, over here.
How is it that the music evolved so fast from whatever it was to the tango?
Well, it was me.
The tempo you had.
It was me who changed everything. I mean, I didn't. I just wanted to get out of something that was really boring. I was bored of playing the same music continuously, year after year, the same harmonies, the same rhythm. I mean, nothing to discover. Nothing was new. Everything was old, and I just didn't love it. And I found out that I was loving what I wanted to do. I wanted to write this way. I wanted to play this way, and that's what really made me important of what I was doing.
You said on
nobody
many,
dared to do nothing different. You couldn't. You're not
touch
supposed
this
to do
form,
this. Yeah, I mean, I was taking. Excuse me, Charles.
That's okay.
I was taking away something that's very near to the heart. In Argentina or in Uruguay, the people this is worse than a religion for them. You can't change this. You can't change religion. And I changed tango. I got into trouble. My God, every day I got in trouble. When I went to Uruguay, that's a very small country, much more smaller than Argentina. The things that they said to me, maybe she remembers. The things that I can't say the words. They were very, very hard, very strong words. Because I said la comparsita. It's from the author, the composer is from Uruguay, and then they came from. I had a press conference, and the first thing that they asked me, they said, "What do you think about la comparsita?" I said, "It's the worst music I ever heard in my life." That was the end of Astor Piazzolla. So, I mean, why did you say that? I said, you asked me for the comparsita. If you asked me for another tango that's from Argentina, I would have said the same thing. But he was from Uruguay, and he wanted to know what I thought about that music.
As I understand it, the tango then was, up until mid-50s, still the only popular music in Argentina that was widely listened to. Is that accurate?
Well, yes, it was from 1940 until 1955 when it starts dying. It was the most. I mean, Argentina, the people used to dress in a tango way. They used to eat in a tango way. They used to walk in a tango way. Everything was tango. Everything, absolutely. There was no folklore music yet. I mean, the folklore music that comes from the interior of Argentina, they didn't listen yet to that. They didn't consider that yet, the music of Argentina.
Was there American jazz listened to in Argentina or not?
Well, yes, very much.
That was
very much.
That
no,
was
but
popular.
at the end, it got very difficult. At the end, in the 50s, when Elvis Presley and Bill Haley comes, they just sweep the tango. Tango goes away. The young kids don't want to dance any more tango because it was very complicated, and they just wanted to have fun. They needed more excitement with the rhythm, and they chose Presley, Bill Haley, and then the Beatles. I mean, this went on and didn't stop until today.
So when you began to do the new tango, your audience must have been young people then.
Well, it was because I just got the dean of the University of Buenos Aires to come and listen to a rehearsal. And because they didn't want me, I wanted to give a free concert for all the people, the students at the University of Buenos Aires. This was also in 1954-55, where they never dared to play a tango in the university. The university was considered the most intellectual part of Argentina. And he came to listen to a rehearsal, and he says, "But this is not a tango. This is something else. This is it's music, like chamber music. Well, we want to do this. Let's see what the young kids say. And we had an audience of 4,000 students at the theater that day when we played, and we could never stop anymore. I was playing in Buenos Aires, all around the universities of my country. In those moments, it wasn't a question of money. I just wanted to play, and everything was free. We played for the students, and that we won.
We're going to play a piece of yours called Milonga Loca. And
we're going to jump.
Jump to
30 years ahead.
And maybe you could comment about this piece both before we play it and then after we play it.
Well, before you played, I was speaking at the beginning of the brothels in Buenos Aires, and the music they used to play, that was music, very picaresque music. And this is like puppets. I imagine two puppets as they used to have in the brothels. There was the thieves and the policemen. They were all together, like always. I mean, police and thieves are always together. And this was the brothels and the prostitutes and the gigolos, and this was more or less what I imagined in the screen with my music. This is an idea of what is the music we're doing today. We recorded this 2 years ago, and in my own country today, I don't give any more explanations of what I do. I think I'm too old to give explanations of what I write. The people, they accept it or they don't accept it. But I have a great problem. It's the word tango. Each time I go to some country, the people see the word tango, but they don't read the other one that's before, that means new tango. It's a complete different thing.
This is KPFA or KPFB in Berkeley, KFCF in Fresno. You are listening to Astor Piazzolla speaking of music at the Exploratorium's presentation on May 11th, 1989 in San Francisco, with your host for this program, Charles Amirkhanian. Let's return now to Speaking of Music with Astor Piazzolla, recorded on May 11th at the Cowell Bayfront Theater in San Francisco.
But I have a great problem. It's the word tango. Each time I go to some country, the people see the word tango, but they don't read the other one that's before, that means new tango. It's a complete different thing. It's a different rhythm. And when they see the word tango, they expect to hear the old-fashioned traditional tango. And when they hear this kind of music, that's what directly they get up and they just leave the theater. But I can't complain really, because the people, the audience I have here in the United States and Canada and all Europe and Japan also is really wonderful. Nobody asks me no questions. The people who love music, they come to listen to us. And the people who don't love music, they just don't come, that's all. It's very simple.
Yeah, question over here.
I saw you in Paris, in Châtelet.
Yes.
I think 3 or 4 years ago. And when you started the show, you say, I play music Buenos Aires. I agree with that too. I like that part, Tango Nuevo.
Yes.
Why you change now in Tango Nuevo?
Well, it's Tango Nuevo is the music of Buenos Aires today. I mean, Tango Nuevo is not the music of Buenos Aires from 1950.
Yeah.
This is a new conception. I mean, it's a new development of the music. But just the same in Argentina, even if they don't accept me as they should accept, I think they should accept my music. When you look at television in Argentina, you put the news on at 7 o'clock or 8 o'clock, and all of a sudden the speaker says, we will show you the accident or the fire, and all of a sudden you see the firemen, you see an automobile had an accident, and what music do they put? My music. Yes, it's true. It's funny, but it's true.
I'm glad you're getting royalties from somewhere.
Oh yes, no, it's more fun. They never pay royalties. That's more fun.
Question.
Is there still inside of new tango some of the essence of the old tango that you could, without being a musician, hear or feel?
Yes, I mean, if you listen to this music, you'll find always. I think first of all you'll find music, then you'll discover that underneath all this good music I try to do, you'll smell the tango underneath. It's there 100%.
Could you just show us, illustrate that?
Yes, we could put the first tangedia.
Yes? From the
Yes.
0 hour?
That's it.
Can we see the cover of the one you just played, please?
This will be great for radio broadcast. 0 hour. This is on American Clave Records, issued in New York, I think, huh?
Yes, the title of this is Tangedia. What does Tangedia mean? It's a mixture of tragedy, comedy, and tango. That's the mixture of this word, Tangedia.
Well, tango
Tangedi.
refers to the
Let's call it tangodi.
But tango refers to the rhythmic structure primarily.
Well, it's absolute. It's a 100% tango. Just listen to it. You'll notice it. If you don't notice this is a tango, well, I'll have to change right away. Sound of the brothels. Does that convince you? Okay, thank you.
The question I have is that I noticed when you were playing at Zellerbach Hall last evening, there were segments of the piece that would always be in groups of 4 measures, it seemed, and there was something very relentless about that. But you don't vary from that too often, do you?
You mean when I stop in the middle?
Well, you have, as you did right here, 4 phrases playing one pattern, then 4 playing another.
I change tonality.
Yeah.
Yes.
But it's always in groups of 4. It's very predictable.
Yes.
You do that on purpose.
Yes, I do.
Of course. But I mean, there's never a. Do you do that because you want to stay true to the form, or because you think it's more effective, or?
As this gentleman said, can you feel the tango underneath? If I'm Sister Teresa, if there's no tango there.
What's your opinion of Stravinsky's tango?
I think it's wonderful.
You
I
do?
think that's the most beautiful tango in the world. I always used to tell Nadia Boulanger that Stravinsky, he was smuggled into Buenos Aires, he lived there, and that's where he learned to write a tango.
It's not true. This is a bit from the Bandoneon Concerto. Do you all know about it? It's on a new Nonsuch recording. And we'll play from the second movement.
There's where the bandoneon has a organ. It sounds like an organ with the strings. This is the other part of Astor Piazzolla when I write for great orchestras or chamber music. I always, when I compose the other music, we would say, I always try to have music as when I write for my group, for my sextet. I want the music on top, underneath I always would like the essence, the roots of tango go on underneath the music. And that's the most important part. I mean, if I just write like a European composer, I'll be losing my time.
I noticed in your ensemble, when you travel, there's this incredible percussive feeling, and yet there's no drummer in the group. But you use a lot of extended techniques, we would call them in classical music, hitting the instruments and so forth.
Well, that's when I learned to play.
How'd that develop?
I was a baseball player when I was a kid. I was a good pitcher, and my left hand is very strong. This is the effects we get. It doesn't break. We tried to get, as we don't have our culture, the Argentine culture, it's not the same as the Brazilian culture. There's African blood in the Brazilian culture. That's why they have a good, important percussion in their music. And we don't have nothing of percussion. We don't have drums in tango. That's why the bandoneons are the one, as Aaron Copland said once when he went to Argentina, he heard a typical Argentine orchestra. I think it was mine. He was at a place called a Tango Bar, and I was playing there. I was 22 or 23 years old, and in came Aaron Copland. Of course, I knew him because I was a musician. I said, Aaron Copland came in, and nobody knew who was Aaron Copland. Who's Aaron Copland? I said, he's a musician. I couldn't explain anymore. I said, well, let's leave it that way. So he came and he discovered something I never discovered. It was that the bandoneons, when they were playing in four, plum, 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 that was the percussion in the tango orchestras. Let's say they play, and I'm going to play in the bad way now. Well, that was the rhythm of a drum. And that's what he discovered, and I never discovered it. I never knew it.
About as much fun as playing the tuba.
Well, yes.
And the other instruments, though, I'm wondering if things changed when you started amplifying your ensemble. In other words, you can get a much more dramatic effect by using a finger snap
Well, you
on the
put a
board.
little echo in the sound, and you get a very big sound. And
How
you
long
can
have
do
you
that
been
with the
doing
with the
that?
cello. I do it now with the cello. The cello hits with its thumb. He hits on the left side of the cello, and it comes like a drum. It's beautiful. And he plays underneath the bridge also. He plays the pizzicato on the strings beyond the bridge.
Did you start amplifying the ensemble just recently?
No.
How long
it's
has that been going on?
Always. Because we had electric guitar, we had to amplify the whole quintet. When I had this quintet for 27 years. We started in 1961 until 88. It was 27 years of quintet, and all of a sudden I discovered that I was repeating myself, and I had to listen to a new sound, and I just changed the two musicians, and I put a cello, a new pianist, and I put another bandoneon player. Now there's a different sound. I would say it sounds more religious now with two bandoneons, and I can get more harmonies out of the two instruments.
So you don't really want to write for an ensemble of 13 or 14 people.
Well, I wouldn't be able to get a job.
It's not practical.
No. If I could work with two, with a duo, it's better. I mean, five or six musicians, 5 or 6 tickets on a plane, 5 or 6 hotel rooms, and it gets very expensive.
It's amusing to think that all the famous European composers who tried to write pieces influenced by jazz and tango and so forth had no impact on jazz and tango. It took you to revolutionize the tango, and you did the studies really in the same field, but you came back and made a real impact.
It was a very good experience for me when I wrote for the first time in 1974 with Jerry Mulligan. We recorded in Italy, in Milan. I have a very great admiration for Jerry Mulligan. I think he's a wonderful musician. And all he did with the saxophone, his counterpoint with Chet Baker, and him playing underneath notes were really wonderful. And that's how I got to admire Jerry Mulligan. And he gave me the opportunity to write all my music, and we recorded that in Italy. But Mulligan did not play, I didn't write jazz. Mulligan played my music, and that for me was, I think that's the best way to love United States and Argentina. I mean, with our ambassadors, we'll never get to love each other. But with music, yes, music makes you love everybody.
We have a little bit of you playing with Gary Burton here.
Well, with Gary, it was the same thing. He came to Buenos Aires with Stan Getz in 1964, and he heard me. We were playing at the same club, and he heard my quintet, and he loved it so much. He said, "One day I would like to play with you." I said, "Okay." 20 years after we met. This is a waltz. This is 3/4 rhythm, but it's I called it this music Nuevo Tango. That means new tango, and I had the liberty. I think there's nothing better for a musician in this case, in my case, to have the liberty of expressing myself, no matter what I write in music, but be free, have liberty to express myself. That's the most important thing, and I come from a country where it was very difficult to express yourself. We had nearly 50 years of dictators in Argentina, and that kills anybody, but it didn't kill me yet. So I just went ahead. I did what I always loved, music, and I'm still alive, and thank you.
We have a few more minutes. I wanted to ask you one thing. Last night you played a piece that began with two bandoneons, sort of a fugal, Bachian kind of piece. It was extraordinarily beautiful, and I wondered if you could tell us what that piece was.
Well, that was a prelude and fugue. It's a promise I made. I'm very Catholic, so when I was operated last year and today, what day is it today? Yes. 9 months. I'm a 9-month-old. I was operated. I had a 4 bypass in my heart, and I had a very beautiful operation. I mean, beautiful because my doctor told me, look, you're not sick anymore. You used to be sick. Now you're wonderful. And he was right. I think it's about 10 years I couldn't play like I'm playing now. I mean, it's not that I'm recommending you, everybody, to get a heart operation. But it's a good publicity for the people who are afraid to die. We are all afraid to die. I didn't want to die. I wanted to go on playing music, and I promised my version. I says, look, if I don't die, I'm going to write a music for you the first thing I do. I went back home in 5 days. It was a very quick operation. 5 days I was normal. I went back home. I started composing. I started playing 2 months after, and this was the music.
It's dedicated to?
To the Virgin of the Miraculous Medal.
Where is that?
I have her here next to me.
There she is.
There she is.
Aha.
Wonderful.
That piece was in several movements, or it was
And
just
2 movements,
two
a
movements.
prelude and fugue.
A prelude and fugue. Are there
Fugue
questions?
is when I
from
got
the
out of the
audience?
hospital.
Yeah. Back there, lady in the white.
I'd like to know what happened to the dance itself. Do you compose for the ballet?
No, yes, I'm composing. I wrote a music recently called a tango ballet, thinking in some special ballet that could be able to do it. But most of the ballets now in the world are dancing my music, and this was started by Van Manen in Amsterdam, in Holland.
The trombone player?
No, he's a choreographer, Hans van Manen, and he made a piece. He choreographed ballet. It was called 5 Tangos, and my name began growing in Holland. So each time we go to Holland, people love us on account of this good man who remembered my music and made a very important ballet with it.
Any other dance?
Well, yes,
choreographers
the
and
London
agents?
Ballet, the Frankfurt from Hamburg and Lisbon, and all around the world, and Argentina also.
We should say that tonight your opera is opening in Philadelphia. It's a piece called Orfeo.
It's not an opera, it's a musical. It's a music for dancing, singing, and instrumental music. And it's opening at Philadelphia, and it goes to the Spoleto Festival in Charleston.
South Carolina.
Yes.
And what is this about, Orfeo?
It's divided in two parts. The first part is it's based on a story of Jorge Luis Borges, and the second part is the myth of Orfeo.
Have you transformed it into a contemporary?
No, it was
situation?
transformed. They gave me the libretto. I was in Uruguay home. I have my summer house in Uruguay, and I composed all the music this summer, and I sent it by mail. I never heard it. I never saw it. I don't know what happens, so I'm going to have the. This will be a.
It's very generous of you to stay here instead of going there.
No, but
you knew Borges, am I right?
Yes, I worked with him very much.
In what capacity? How did you collaborate?
Well, we were good friends. We were such good friends. He declared that he hated my music, and I declared that I loved his poetry. So that's why we were friends. And when I wrote music for him, I had to change my computer. I changed my brains a little bit. I had to go back 100 years and try to do the music he only understood. That was the milongas he used to have in mind. He was like a magician. He invented things. He invented images. More than a writer, he was a magician. Incredible. But I had to write the milongas when the people, the singers of Argentina used to sing our songs. They couldn't believe that the music was made by me. I did it in a very primitive way because Borges wanted it that way.
Was this for a particular piece?
No,
for
there
Orfeo,
were
you mean?
eight milongas, and I did the Man of the Rose Corner. I don't know how they call it in English. That was another story of his. I made it. It was for a ballet, and I wrote other tangos with him also.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yes, there are so many questions. Who has the best question? There it is. Okay.
I'm afraid my question is a little long, but I'll try to be brief. I would like to know about the dancing too, not the ballet, but that wonderful earthy kind of tango and Tango Argentina. I was at your concert last night, and it seemed like the music in the first part was more danceable, and the second half was more for listening and feeling. And I'd like to know if you care, if people continue to dance to your music, if you would like to write for that, and if when you played your music in the 50s in Argentina, if that revived the tango that got lost when rock and roll came in, and if there is still a continuing revival of
That's another price now.
And where can one go to learn how to dance like that?
Well, it's the same thing if you ask I don't know, a butcher of what that your eyes hurt. He would say, go and see a specialist. I mean, I'm not a dance specialist. I think that the tango as a dance phenomenon is over in Argentina. This show that you saw of Tango Argentina, I also saw it, and it's a repetition of the dancing that was going on in 1940 in Argentina. But
so it's strictly nostalgia. You mean?
Yes, that's what it is.
Could you talk about the years when you were playing with Aníbal Troilo and how you know...
No, they'll find out my age.
Picture how you move away and...
Well, that was, I was 20 years old when I was playing with him. I started with Aníbal Troilo, and then I was arranger of his orchestra. I was only 21 when I started arranging.
What was his personality like?
Look, Aníbal Troilo was like Count Basie for the Americans. He was the Argentine Count Basie. He had very much swing. But he had a problem with me. I used to change his arrangements. I used to experiment with harmonies, new harmonies. They were so strange, the harmonies, that the musicians used to say that I made mistakes. This is not a normal chord, they used to say. I just wanted to investigate. When they were running me around always. They didn't want me.
Did you enjoy all this sort of antagonism that came to you? Were you?
Yes, it was fun. It was fun. I think all of a sudden in 1960, I discovered, I went home at midnight, and I started putting on all the radios, and each radio was speaking about me. One called me assassin, the other one degenerated, the other one murderer, this and that, and I was having fun. And they made me popular. They made me popular in 2 weeks. Everybody was speaking because some people say about me that Astor Piazzolla should play more and shut his mouth. That's what they say about me. Even when I have to speak about politics and about the militaries, I never shut my mouth. I don't like to be pointed out. I don't like the people to tell me to shut my mouth. I just like to speak. I mean, that's what my freedom. I have my own freedom.
It's funny nowadays. We have people like Geraldo who does television programs here that are really scandalous, and everybody says how bad he is. But it helps the ratings even so. But usually we say that about people who aren't doing something with great integrity. And so in the arts in America, if somebody does something with great integrity and it's kind of outrageous, nobody pays any attention. So at least people paid attention in your country.
Well, I mean, maybe if I was from the United States, they would pay attention. But in Argentina, I remember the last taxi I took in Buenos Aires before coming to the United States, and I called the taxi. He came, and when he saw my face, he started shouting at me. He insulted me, and he called me communist. And he went away. I just thought I looked like the dogs when they look with their heads like that. I said, "Why did you do this to me? I didn't do nothing. I only changed the tango, that's all."
Yes, back here.
Maestro, I hear somehow an American composer through your music. Would you tell me who has influenced you?
American composers who influenced him?
After your answer, I'd like to give you my impression, if you will let me, please.
Well, and at the beginning, the American composer that helped me, first of all, was Duke Ellington. Then it was Gershwin. Then I listened to all the composers, but I think the most important part of this is being a fan of Charlie Parker, Miles Davis, Gillespie, Mulligan, Chick Corea, Bill Evans, and all the important things that was done with jazz music, contemporary jazz. I like it. I don't like free jazz. I like everything that's written. I adore Gil Evans. I admire him very much. And he came to my 3 concerts 2 years ago when I was playing in New York. So I think we used to love each other without knowing each other. And that was very important to me, to meet Gil Evans, one of the most important musicians of the United States.
Did you want to give us your...
You answered my question. I heard Gershwin in your music.
Thank you.
Yes, way in the back.
Yeah, listening to your group, I was amazed by the way they worked together. They're incredibly tight, the quintet and your present group. The violinist from the quintet was incredibly responsive to the way you were playing. Can you relate a little bit how you worked with your quintet and your present group, and whether you relate the way you play at all to the way a jazz group would play, not a free jazz group, but the way they would respond to each other?
Well, there's a great, I think that I have to be a little contagious here. I have to give them my way of feeling when I'm on stage and I start playing. I mean, if I have my head in another place, I'll never make it. There will be no type of communication between me and my musicians. When we were rehearsing with this new group 2 months ago, we had nearly 2 months of rehearsals, and I told them it's not a question of playing the exact notes that are written here on the music. What's important is communication between us. When we're playing with 6 people, it's like when they do, how do you call it, when you put a table and you get your hands, a communication?
Seance.
That's it. That's, how's the word?
Seance.
Sales.
Seance. French. Seance.
Seance. Seance. Okay. You would have told me. Well, that's the only word, communication. I mean, the musicians just know how I feel and how I'm playing. I just look at them, they listen to me play, and they just get contagious with what they're doing. And if I'm happy, they're happy playing. If I'm not happy, they'll fall also. It's not a question, I repeat it again, it's not a question of being a good musician and play what it's written. Each one has to give a little of himself. And that's what I was talking the other day with my pianist. He's a contemporary composer and a contemporary concert pianist.
His name?
Gerardo Gandini. And he puts a little of his music. I'm not against contemporary music, but if I'm a romantic, maybe writing, it doesn't mean that I'm against contemporary music. I love contemporary music. Above all, I respect the people who do what they love. And this pianist, this composer in this case, he likes his music very much, and I permit him to add his music to my way of writing. And he can't come. Another thing, when we were coming to the United States, I told him, look, when you do a kind of improvisation, we're going to the United States where improvisation was invented. You can't just be there. Are thousands and thousands of wonderful pianists in the United States who are great improvisers. So he says, no, I'm not going to do no type of improvisation. What I'm going to do is compose on top of the music I write. When he has a cadenza of piano solo, he just goes putting his type of 12-tone system or atonal system on top of my music, and it fits perfectly. I mean, when you do it with your heart, everything fits.
You had a question here, yes.
Okay.
Since I find it difficult to imagine life after Piazzolla, I find myself wondering what happened to your violinist and your other pianist. Where did they go after you?
Well, I told you the story when I was operated. I was playing 27 years with this with the quintet, and all of a sudden I discovered that I was repeating myself. It's not easy to write continuously for the same sound, and I discovered I needed 2 different musicians or 3 different musicians. I changed the violin, I changed the piano, I put a cello instead of the violin, and I put a new pianist. And this new pianist, who's is a concert player, gives me more responsibility. I have to write better. I mean, I just can't write for a common pianist. Now he's a very important pianist, and that makes me more responsible, and I have to compose better. And it's very important. That's where the fun begins, when you have to do things you never did before.
Well, are they still playing now, those musicians?
No, they don't play anymore. One makes a lot of money with jingles, and the other one plays in a poor opera orchestra. I mean, he's condemned.
Do you have any pieces you're working on now? Any commissions or things that will be premiered?
Yes, I'm starting this summer to compose a string quartet for Kronos, and then I'm writing a wind quintet for the Santa Fe Chamber Festival, and I'll be writing 3 years consecutive until 1992. They're going to do a special concert with all my music in the Santa Fe Festival. So,
and we've heard you're writing an opera on the subject of Gardel.
Well, that's one of the propositions I had this year. Or I do it for the Philadelphia Theater Music, the opera on Carlos Gardel, or I have a proposition for the Opera of Paris. It's written by a French poet, Pierre Philippe, and I like that proposition a little more than I don't like to translate very much the books. And this book on Carlos Gardel had a very great investigation by this writer, and he read everything about Carlos Gardel, and he put just what was needed. I mean, to write an opera, it must be very simple, like in the Italian operas. The man, the woman, the killer, and that's all, that's the end. And that's what I want with Carlos Gardel. And I want Placido Domingo to be Carlos Gardel.
There's a new 3-volume book, maybe not so new, of the El Libro del Tango that came out in Argentina. Yes. Who wrote that?
Horacio Ferrer.
Who was your collaborator?
Yeah, he was the poet who wrote with me.
Did you work with him a bit on that book?
We made an opera together. It's Maria de Buenos Aires is the name, and it's going on now in all Europe, and it's going to Brazil now, and then it's going back to Vienna. But It isn't my opera. I would really write a real opera. That was a operetta. I called it a small opera. It wasn't. I didn't have the pretensions of doing a great opera, but I would really like to write my big opera, and I need at least 1 year of freedom to write it.
Have there been any documentary films made about you in Argentina or
No.
anywhere?
No.
Not yet.
No, not yet.
Okay. Well, all you cameramen, get ready. Yes. Yeah. How did tango get its name?
They say, I don't know. They say that it comes from Africa. Tang is this, and go. You bang on the drum and you go. That's what they say. It's not my invention. I don't think it's like that, because if it has African roots, it didn't come to Argentina. I think that the tango existed before they played it in Argentina in 1890s. I think that in Spain the tango was being played. In Cuba, the habanera and all that has much alike with the tango. So I think it's more from Cuba or from Spain. From the flamenco, there's a lot also.
Yes, question here.
Yes, do you have a protege or the group of other musicians that will follow in your footsteps?
A protege or people who will follow playing your music? Huh?
Yes, Well, I don't think so. People don't like to think very much today. They are much happier with a synthesizer in their hands than studying this. I know that's very difficult, but I think it's a question of putting your head together and studying music. Many people would like to write the music as the way I write it, but they are in a great problem. They don't have a musical culture. I mean, I'm an important musician because I studied much music, but it's not only to be an important musician in life. I think that you must have a lot of courage to do what you feel, and a lot of courage not to accept what the directors of the record companies ask you or oblige you to do. I never did that in my life, and I feel I could die tomorrow. I'm the happiest man in the world because I never did what they wanted me to do.
Did you ever turn down a tour?
They were trying to destroy me before I was born, and they couldn't. I'll never forget a director of CBS here in New York, and I would like to know his name to make a public enemy #1. This man said to me, I went with that recording of 3 minutes, the one you passed. I was proud of the recording I made in Uruguay. And I took it to him, and he says, look, this is very good music. But in this country, it's not how much you know, it's whom you know. And that destroyed me, because I thought I was in the land where everything, if you're a good musician, you'll have a lot of work. And those were the 3 years, the most horrible years of my life, when I heard that horrible phrase.
I understand that you turned down going to Japan because they wanted you to play some traditional and some Nuevo Tango.
Well, in Japan they offered me a lot of money. At the beginning, this was in the 60s, 1961, 62. They wanted me to go to Japan, but that was very terrible. They want me to play 50% of classical tangos, the old-fashioned tangos. I said, no, not me. Why not? You go to Japan, we pay you. You can pay me all you want. I'm not going. I'm playing my music. If you want it that way. But I think that's courage. I mean, I started making money 5 years ago. That's all. The rest of, everything was negative in my economic life.
So they brought you to Japan finally,
But the important thing is that
right?
I didn't care about it.
You finally went to Japan.
I went to Japan, I played what I wanted, and they love it.
They do.
And I found, and the last day in Japan, I played at the University of Japan, and in came 60 students of that instrument. 60. 30 girls and 30 boys that played my instrument, the bandoneon.
Who?
And watch it. When they start playing the bandoneon, I better get out of here.
Who would you say inspired the courage to do it your way?
My life in New York as a kid. I learned to defend myself. I've got good beatings, but I gave beatings also. But that made me a man in my life, and I put all that life into my musical life.
You lived with your father alone?
In New York with my mother and father. I'm the only
Yeah.
son.
And what did your father have to say about your music career? And
My father loved tango, but when he heard Bach, he threw all the tangos away. And he says that he used to come every night. He was a barber. He used to come every evening and he says, play a tango. And all of a sudden I was playing Bach. And when he heard Bach, he went crazy. Every evening he used to come and say, play Bach.
he liked it?
He loved it very much.
What about your mother? Was she a musician?
My mother? No, she wasn't a musician.
What was her response to your career?
She
as
loved
it
my
developed?
music. I mean, in this case, my father loves it, my mother loves it also. She wouldn't, there wasn't no psychologist in the middle. When I didn't play the bandoneon, they used to give me a beating, that's all. I used to play better.
Well, you had Boulanger in the middle for your psychologist.
Yes, he was the great psychologist.
I'd like to thank you very much for visiting
Thank you.
with us.
Thank you also.
Astor Piazzolla, speaking of music on May 11th, 1989, at the Cowell Bayfront Theater in San Francisco. Part of the Exploratorium Speaking of Music series. I'm your host, Charles Amirkhanian. The recording of this event was produced by Ed Herman and Tony Farrow. Music of Astor Piazzolla. That's from his new album called The Rough Dancer and the Cyclical Night, and that was the Milonga Picaresque, I believe. The music of Astor Piazzolla is recorded on American Clave Records in this country and on several other labels, including None Such Records' release of his Concerto for Bandoneon with Lalo Schifrin conducting the orchestra of St. Luke's, and you can find it in your better record stores, but there simply is not enough to document all of his work over the years, and it is too bad that if you look in the major reference works of classical music, at least, that his name is never listed. I think that certainly will change with his newfound fame and fortune in the West, and it has been a pleasure for KPFA to be a part of the phenomenon of bringing his music to the Bay Area.